And we are back. It is time for my predictions for tomorrow's Europa League round of 16 second legs. Now, if you want to see my predictions for tonight's Champions League games as well as tonight's Premier League game between Bournemouth and Luton, those are the last two videos posted on this channel, so make sure that you check those out if you haven't seen those already. However, we have to get all of our predictions for Europa done today as we are doing FA Cup predictions tomorrow before the return of Premier League predictions again on Friday. So before we get into it, if you haven't done so already, please do drop a like on this video if you do enjoy these predictions series, and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We've, of course, got videos coming out for the rest of this week, and then, of course, everything international break covered for you as well. And without any further ado, let's get straight into it because we have got 16 games to talk about coming up tomorrow. And as always, we will start off with the Europa League, and as always, you can see all of the scorelines from the first legs on your screen now to help you make your own informed decisions when it comes to making these predictions as well. But we'll start off with the 4 early kickoffs. First off, it is Rangers taking on Benfica, and as always, my disrespect for Scottish football has come back to bite me because Rangers managed to get a 2-2 draw away in Benfica, and to be fair, that's an incredible result. Now, obviously, Benfica were off the back of a 5-0 defeat going into that first leg. They have since recovered a little bit, and look, I still don't think Rangers are in the same sort of class as a side as Benfica, so I am going to double down. I'm going to go for 2-1. I'm going to be a lot more respectful. I did a Benfica thrashing in the first time, so I'm going to be a bit more respectful, and I'm going to go for 2-1 to Benfica. Yeah, if Rangers pull it off, fair play to them. I'll show them more respect in the next round. But for me, it is still Benfica. Next up, it's Slavia Prague and AC Milan. And what an opening game this was. 4-2 to AC Milan in the first leg. Slavia really gave them a good run for their money, and I'm going to back them to do so again. This tie is not over by any stretch of the imagination. They're definitely going to believe after scoring 2 goals away that they can get some goals at home as well. However, I still think AC Milan are probably going to be too strong in the end, and I'm going to go for a 3-2 win on the night, which will, of course, be a 7-4 win on aggregate. Next up, it is Villarreal and Marseille in the first sort of tie that is all but over already going into tonight, with Marseille, of course, winning 4-0 in the opening leg. To me, this is the sort of game where if you're Villarreal, realistically, do you risk any of your key players going into this? Because you're not realistically going to turn over a 4-0 deficit. For me, this is just a game where it's just going to be a nice, casual one. Nothing too much to say about it. So we're just going to go for a casual 2-0 win for Marseille because they want to finish the job. But for me, for Villarreal, it's just not worth the effort. A side that does need to put in the effort, though, is West Ham United, who are 1-0 down to Freiburg. We talked about the controversy around the last-minute handball and that lot in the first leg when we did our Premier League predictions last week. But now, of course, we need to actually talk about the second leg itself. And it's a tight one. Like, it was a very, very even game in that first leg. I think West Ham at home, you'd have to favour them to get the win on the night. Is it going to be enough to see them progress within 90 minutes? We shall see. I'm going to go for 2-1, which will, of course, take it to extra time and potentially penalties. But I do think West Ham should be going through tonight. So that is where I'm going to put my hat on this one. I'm going to say West Ham either in 90 minutes or beyond. Next up, it's Atalanta taking on Sporting Lisbon. And I was a little bit disrespectful to Atalanta in the first leg. I did say I expected Sporting Lisbon to win. Atalanta did get the draw, and they've backed it up with really good performances in Serie A as well. So with that said, even with all the hype surrounding Sporting Lisbon at the moment, I am going to go for a 2-1 win to Atalanta, which will see them knock out the current top side in Portugal. And could be a good game. I said both these sides have a lot of talented players that a lot of clubs are looking at across Europe. So good showing for some new players tonight. But for me, Atalanta will go on to take it. Then we come to our boys Qarabag, and what a performance from Qarabag in that opening leg. So close to ending Bayer Leverkusen's unbeaten run this season. And look, you have to say Xabi Alonso did not show enough respect to Qarabag. The side that he put out in that first leg was incredibly disrespectful to Qarabag, and I'm pretty confident he won't make that same mistake again. Obviously, we spoke about how these sides met in the group stages, and Leverkusen won easily in the first leg, and etc, etc. But fair play to Qarabag. They showed some real character in that opening leg. I still think Leverkusen go through tonight, but I'm going to be a lot more respectful myself as well, and I'm going to go for 3-1 to Bayer Leverkusen. But who knows? maybe Karabag can shock the world. Speaking of shocking the world, if Brighton turn this one around, they certainly are going to shock the world. But for me, again, like with the Villarreal game, I think this one's all but over already. I think Brighton will still play a strong team because they always seem to mix up their squad anyway. They always play the same style of play. I'm going to go for 2-2 on the night. For me, Roma are probably not going to risk any of their key players because they're pushing for a high spot in Serie A this season as well. So really could be anything this one. This is probably just the toughest one to predict. And then finally, Liverpool against Sparta. Obviously, Liverpool with a massive FA Cup tie against Manchester United at the weekend. And they're already 5-1 up. I wouldn't expect any of the key players to be risked in this one. So I'm going to go for 3-2 to Liverpool. Sparta made a lot of chances in that opening leg and were probably unlucky to lose 5-1. But yeah, again, with all the changes Liverpool will probably make, I would still expect them to win, but expect it to be a little bit closer and a bit more open than you would expect. So those are all of my Europa League predictions. Take a last look at them before they disappear, because it is now time to head over to the Europa Conference League, where we start off once again with 4 early kickoffs, kicking off with Fenerbahce and Union Saint-Gilloise. Fair play to Fenerbahce in that opening leg. They absolutely smashed them. And to be honest, I think this is just going to be a case of finishing the job. So I am going to go for 2-0 to Fenerbahce. A massive step too far this for Union if they ever got any chance of pulling this one around, which I just don't think they do. Next up, the highest scoring game from the first round ties. It is Fiorentina and Maccabi Haifa. 4-3 to Fiorentina in the opening game. Massive, massive entertainment in that one. And fair play to Maccabi Haifa for essentially taking Fiorentina that deep. And why not have another game this entertaining in the second leg? I'm going to go for 4-2 to Fiorentina, purely because they're at home. I'm taking a goal off Maccabi Haifa. But an 8-5 game, I mean, would just be incredible to see as the aggregate scoreline. So that is what I am going for. Next up, it is PAOK and Dinamo Zagreb. First leg going basically exactly how I expected. Zagreb being the stronger side over PAOK. Going into tonight's game, again, it'll just be a case of looking to finish the job. PAOK have obviously got to go for it because they are 2 goals down. But for me, I think Zagreb are just going to be a little bit too strong. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw on the night. But I could definitely see Zagreb taking this one as well. Then we come to Victoria Pilsen and Servette. And we talked about the 0-0s around Servette and Ludogorets and Victoria Pilsen. And how if I go for 1-0, it's going to be 0-0. If I go for 0-0, it's going to be 1-0. I went for 1-0. It was 0-0. Third time running when it comes to Servette. I went for 1-0, it was 0-0. I went for 0-0, it was 1-0. I went for 1-0, it was 0-0. I'm going 1-0 Servette again. If it's 0-0 and it goes all the way to penalties, so be it. I still think Servette are the stronger side over Pilsen. Obviously, there is so little to split between these two, which is why I said it could have been 0-0 the first time around, and it was. But I refuse to believe a game at this level goes all that way. It would be 180 odd minutes plus, wouldn't it? So it'd be 210 minutes. If it goes 210 minutes, 0-0, neither side deserve to get through as far as I'm concerned. Speaking of 0-0, that's exactly how we find Aston Villa and Ajax as well as we go to the first of the later kickoffs in the Europa Conference League. Aston Villa are having a little bit of a wobble at the moment. Obviously, we spoke about it a bit more in the Premier League. They've been losing games in the Premier League quite regularly. They obviously went into the first leg against Ajax. They had a player sent off in Ezri Konsa. They then go into the game against Tottenham at the weekend. Off the back of that result, lose 4-0 again, have John McGinn sent off. So not only are they performing badly, but their discipline's starting to go out the window as well. Real opportunity for Ajax to capitalise on this. However, Ajax just aren't playing that great themselves. So I am going to go for a very nervy, very tentative 1-0 to Aston Villa. Obviously, again, on their day, if they turn up, they could blow Ajax away. But I just think the way they've played in the last few weeks, it's going to be a very nervy performance. And if Ajax can get a go-ahead goal, I think Villa could be in real trouble here. Next up, it is Brugge taking on Molde. A game that I went for 2-2. I think that was a fair prediction for the opening leg. And I think 2-1 to Molde is a pretty fair result and makes this tie a very interesting second leg because I think this is just going to be an absolute reverse. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Brugge, which will take it into extra time and potentially penalties. And then I'm probably just about going to edge it in favour of the Belgian side in extra time and penalties if it does end up going that far. So for me, Club Brugge go through to the next round, but expect this to be a very tight affair over the course of the entire match. Then we have Lille taking on Sturm Graz, and I said going into this one that Sturm Graz could potentially do something, but the expectation would be that Lille are far too strong. Lille were far too strong. Like we said about a few others earlier on in this video, I think this is just going to be another case of Lille will just look to finish the job. So I'm going to go for a back-to-back 3-0 win for Lille. I think they're going to still play a few strong players and get the job done there. And then finally, we've been avoiding it for the entire video. Maccabi Tel Aviv, who I predicted to get absolutely smashed by Olympiacos in the first leg, instead went and won 4-1 away. Obviously, they're not at home, but I can only really go for another Maccabi Tel Aviv win because I very much embarrassed myself when I said Olympiacos would beat Maccabi Tel Aviv very easily, and then when to go away and win 4-1, an incredible result. So I'm just backing them to finish it off, really. I'm going to go for 2-0. They have earned my respect, and if Olympiacos turn round and do over the 4-1 deficit, then I look like an idiot twice. So if that happens, fair play to Olympiacos, but already fair play to Maccabi Tel Aviv. I'm hoping you do get the job finished off now, and I'm going for that 2-0 win. And that'll be it for today's predictions. As always, let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below. And like I said, don't forget to check out my Premier League and Champions League predictions for tonight's matches. All of these matches, of course, taking place tomorrow. And then, of course, FA Cup predictions tomorrow. And then Premier League predictions on Friday. Thank you very much for watching once again. Hopefully, I will see you in one of those videos.